Good evening, everyone. Welcome to No Judgment Here with Tish Ross, the podcast. Thank you for being here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this and wherever you're watching this. I want to ask you a huge favor. You guys have social media platforms, and so if you could share this podcast out, it would be greatly appreciated. So many of us have other connections and people who need to hear our stories, our testimonies, and so that other people know that they're not alone. And that is the whole premise behind this podcast. Really quickly, I came across April, my guest this evening, through, and I thank God for social media as long as it's used in the right way, right? Through TikTok, as I have found a few of my guests who have come on and shared their stories. And I know that, God is in control, and He had me come across a TikTok video that she had, and I was reading it and then kind of, went to her TikTok page and was listening to some of her story, even watched some of her little shorts or her little videos there on TikTok. And I thought, okay, Lord, now I know why we crossed paths, because she has a story to tell. And boy, just be prepared. Be prepared to hear the real truth, the raw, the transparent, like we all are. As April and I were chatting, we shared, or I shared with her, and she agreed that, if we share our stories, if God calls us to share our stories, and if we're transparent, then it leads to maybe other people being transparent or vulnerable, or maybe they'll seek someone to talk to. It doesn't necessarily have to be on social media, but maybe it'll open their minds and their hearts to, what, I need to tell somebody my story. I need to get help. I need to talk to someone about this. So that's what the purpose is behind this. Again, really quick, a disclaimer: we are not doctors, we are not physicians, counselors, psychologists, nurses, anything like that. We are regular human beings just like you, that have stories that other people or someone needs to hear. There she
Hi.
is. Hi, April. How are you?
Hello. I'm blessed.
I'm so glad that you are here. And, I shared a little snippet of how I came across you. And I do believe that God is in control of our meetings and how we cross paths. And it was just a little snippet of a TikTok video that you have posted. And it just grabbed my attention in that it talked about a raid and addiction, and possibly facing 10 years in prison. But then it showed the when God entered the picture. But we have to go through the tough stuff before we can get to the good stuff. I feel like people that may be masking or covering up demons, they really need to wrestle those demons and identify them so that they can get rid of them, right?
Absolutely.
And experience the goodness that the Lord has for us. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I honestly just, again, went across, the Lord just blurb, there it is. And I'm like, okay. And that was pretty much it. I was hooked, and I thought somebody needs to hear your story. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is April. I am 38 years old, and I live in a teeny tiny little town called Lone Oak, Texas. It's in Hunt County in Northeast Texas. Been here my whole life. I love it here. Some people say it's like a cult. I think it probably kind of is a little bit, but I'm grandfathered in, so it is what it is. Um, I am in recovery. I've been clean for 6 years, since July 17th of 2019. And when God got a hold of me, he got a hold of me hard. And
Mm,
it was a very radical, just in your face, one thing, quick succession after another that happened. That, I mean, there's been so many things in between July of 2019 until now that should have probably just made me give up, but God said
mm,
absolutely not.
mhm.
And so here I am, absolutely filled with joy, with no other reasoning besides Jesus, honestly. And I just graduated, summa cum laude, with my bachelor's degree in organizational leadership, which has always been a huge goal of mine. Not necessarily the organizational leadership, but getting a bachelor's degree, and the organizational leadership degree just kind of fell into that. And it was perfect. It's a perfect degree for me because it's very versatile. And I did all of that while working a full-time job, raising two amazing kiddos. My husband is actually in federal prison, and we can get into that because of the arrest that happened. So I'm essentially a single mom right
Mhm.
now, and I did all of that literally through the grace of God. That's it. Like, God did this. I'm just here being the vessel for him. God gets the glory. I am extremely proud of myself though for kind of buckling down and getting it done. I know my family's very proud of me as well. And I mean, there's just so much good that's come out of all of this bad.
My goodness. Well, congratulations on your sobriety for sure.
Thank you.
Congratulations on graduating. My goodness,
Thank you.
Summa Cum Laude. Hello. I mean, I get the chills just even thinking about that. And so that someone somewhere who is stuck or drowning in addiction or depression or whatever it is, and I don't discount or make light of any of that at all, because like you said, you have to, it's hard, you have so many challenges to face, and we
Absolutely.
continue in life, we continue to face challenges, right? But the Lord got a hold of you. So tell me a little bit about your childhood, what kind of childhood you had, your parents, um, and what kind of kiddo you were.
Okay, so I want to preface this by saying that my parents did the best that they could with what they had. They were both very, very, very young. I think so. My brother's 13 months older than I am, and I think they were 17 and 18 when he was born, and then 18 and 19 when I was born. So they had a lot thrown at them very, very early on, and they didn't have a lot of tools in their tool belt. So,
Okay.
with that being said, my childhood was extremely chaotic. There was a lot of arguing with my parents. And I don't, they tried their hardest to protect us from it. And I will say that we were never abused. We were always extremely loved. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that my parents would protect me with their life. But home wasn't necessarily like the safe place that a kid can go and just feel secure, because it was always so tumultuous between my parents. They fought constantly, accused each other of things constantly, and it just kind of spilled over. And it was, we also, there was addiction everywhere we looked growing up. So the stigma that should have been there wasn't really there. Like, I knew drugs were bad, and my parents tried to drill into us that drugs were bad. But whenever you're surrounded by, grandparents on this side, or cousins on this side, when there's just so much drinking or drugs or whatever that's around you, then it's really hard to get that fear of it there, because you see so many people doing it. And
Exactly.
then a couple in, you'll see the crazy stuff that kids shouldn't see. It just, the childhood was pretty chaotic. It was pretty tumultuous, and as a child I was a turd. I'm just going to say that I was I was a handful. I've always been very headstrong, and I've always been the kid that's like, you're going to tell me not to do it. Well, I'm going to do it just because you told me not to do it. So bless my parents' heart for having to deal with me, because I've been a loudmouth and bullheaded my whole life. But they honestly kind of built that up inside of me too, to make me strong. Like, they
Mhm.
really empowered me to have a voice. And I am very, very grateful for that from my parents, for really letting me blossom into myself. But, like I said, it was very chaotic. So I rebelled in dumb ways. I started smoking cigarettes when I was 15 years old. I drank for the first time when I was 15 years old, which, granted, I got caught for all of this stuff and I got in trouble for it, but it didn't stick. I would go to parties. I started doing cocaine off and on in high school, and it was just, I just wanted to be a party girl. And then with the situation at home, mom and dad are always fighting, or dad's gone, he's trying to make a living, he's working, he's a truck driver, he's over the road. Mom's trying to work, and then they come back and they're together and they're fighting again. And I was going to get away in any way that I could, whether it be at a party down the road or with this guy that I just met. So I was a handful for sure.
Mm. And so, and it sounds too like, I mean, a lot of us and a lot of people that have been on the podcast, myself included, my husband included, I mean, we younger, we just did all the things. We tried, we smoked cigarettes, we were drinking when we were in high school and
Absolutely.
college, kind of did the college stuff. Like everybody says, you get that all out of your system. And when we all did that, most of us, not all of us, but most of us did that, and just kind of um, grew up being, like my husband says, he says he was a heathen growing up.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
tell me about, tell me your story. So you dabbled in what we all did, and then tell me, take us from where you graduated from high school and then on.
So, when I graduated from high school, I was still like in my hardcore party phase.
Mhm.
Was just kind of running around. I was gonna do the college thing, but then I had a boyfriend and I didn't want to leave him. The By the way, if anybody's watching this, never stay home for a man, for a boy. But we ended up breaking up, of course, because of course, what do teenagers do? They break up. And I was going to join the Navy. That was going to be my out to just get the heck away from this little town and just go live my life. And one of my very best friends was like, "Hey, don't join the Navy. Come with me to Florida for the next few months and we can just stay with my brother." And I was like, "That sounds fantastic." So we did. We just up and left. My poor parents were probably so stressed out because they were like, "What is this child of mine doing?" I was 19, across the country. We moved to Jacksonville, Florida for like 3 months, got a job, start paying bills there. I'm talking like a 24/7 party, smoking weed, doing cocaine, drinking all day, every day. Um, Came back home, kept the party thing going, ended up getting a job at a bar down the road, being a bartender. And that's where I met my husband, Curtis, at. I had no clue he existed. He apparently learned my schedule before I even knew who he was. He told his friends he was going to marry me. He was not my type. He was very shy. Every time I talked to him, he would turn beet red. I was like, oh, you know. But something just clicked, and it's so cliche to say it, but the very first time I ever hugged that man, I knew it. I knew it right then and there. I was hooked. I was addicted to him too. And I mean, we were still partying like crazy. I didn't realize when I first met him that my husband was selling weed and had like a heavier drug habit. I didn't know that. We were just partying and having a good time. So we pretty much, I think we went on one date and then I basically just moved in with him. Like we were just literally hooked at the hip. And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff, like the fighting that I seen my parents do when I was growing up, I kind of equated that with what a real relationship is. And so my husband Curtis and I, before we were married, we fought like crazy fights. Like we would throw down, we would cuss each other out, we would be drunk as I don't know what and trying to leave, chasing each other down the road. It was just the most insane. Anybody in their right mind that had any kind of rational skills, emotional coping skills in their mind would have been like, absolutely not, I'm leaving. Me, I was like, huh, this is amazing. I love this man. And I think we broke up a solid 20 times in the first 3 years. And then we get back together after one big breakup, and we decided we were going to move to a town over and get our own apartment. And I don't think we were there for 3 or 4 months before I found out I was pregnant with our daughter, my daughter Emma. She is about to be 14 in November. And I was mortified. I was like, oh my gosh, my life's over. I am 23 years old. I am pregnant. He was ecstatic. I was like, what is wrong with you? It made me mad that he was so happy about it. But she was the absolute best thing that could have ever happened because I calmed down. I had my baby girl. I was just so like obsessed with being a mom. That's all I cared about. I cared about my baby and I was fantastic with her. Now, granted, our relationship still wasn't wonderful. We still fought quite a bit, but I didn't realize that he was using behind my back. And so we broke up again, one big breakup. I actually had another older brother that he wasn't raised with us. He was my dad's son, but I loved my big brother Jesse. We were very, very, very similar in our personalities. And he accidentally shot himself and died. And it kind of just spun me off really bad because I'd been staying at my parents' house. And so the night that he called, he was messed up the night that he called. And I didn't answer the phone because I was messed up too. I just got home. I was drunker than a skunk. And I heard the answer machine go off. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'll call you back in the morning, Jesse. Nobody could call him back in the morning because he was gone. He was playing with a gun and accidentally shot himself and he died. And so that kind of, I think my daughter was maybe 2, 3. It spun me off really, really bad at the time. That was like my catalyst to really go. I started drinking so heavily And I mean, if anybody had any cocaine, April was down to do it. I started taking Adderall really like heavily too. And unfortunately, I am ADHD. So if I take one Adderall, I'm great. If I
Mm,
take two Adderall, I'm still okay. Nobody, well, I say nobody. April doesn't just take what I need to take. I'm like, hey, if one works, five has to be great. So
mm,
I was taking Adderall, I was drinking heavily. And somehow in the midst of this, Curtis and I decided to get back together. And then we decided that the answer to all of our problems was to get married. So we got married
mhm,
on New Year's Eve at the bar that we met at, because we wanted an excuse to party for the rest of our lives together. We were like, hey, if we get married on New Year's Eve, the grandparents have to watch the kids, right? So we got married. Things calmed down for about 2 seconds. And then I found out we had decided we wanted to have another baby because things weren't toxic enough. And I found out like 2 seconds after we got married that I was pregnant with our son. And so, of course, calm down then. Um, up until my son was born. And I had a lot of issues when I was pregnant with my son. I had to go to doctor's appointments in Dallas like every other week. It was terrible. And
mm,
the whole time, my husband was just being a jerk. Like he was very distant. I couldn't understand it. Our marriage was an absolute shambles. The baby was born. I think he was at the hospital long enough for my son to be born, and then he just left. And I had had like a massive postpartum hemorrhage, I almost died, and he just left. And I was like,
oh my
okay,
gosh.
that's really not cool. And so bring my son home. He's got some issues going on. We couldn't figure out what it was. I kept bringing him to the doctor. People thought I was crazy. Mind you, I'm still popping Adderall like it's going out of style. So that's amplifying my nervousness.
Mhm,
And I think my son was about 4 months old, and things had gotten to a breaking point with my husband. It was just absolute insanity. We could not get along. He was gaslighting me. I knew something was going on, and he's making me think I'm crazy. And I found a meth pipe and some meth in his truck. And so I confronted him about it, and I pretty much found out that he had been smoking meth, using it the entire time that we had been together. And I was like, oh my goodness. So that's what's been really going on this whole time. I've been coming to him, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? What am I doing wrong? And he was just, it's you, you're a problem. The whole time he was just pretty much spun off on meth.
mhm.
And I'm going to tell you, I truly, honest to goodness, felt like I had been cheated on, because how do you keep that? I mean, for years, we've been together for probably, oh my goodness, 6, 7 years at the time. And this is the whole time he had been using behind my back. Everybody knew it but me, too. That was
I could
awful.
imagine. I could imagine that you felt like you were cheated on. I mean, a secret kept like that
Yes.
from
Such a big,
your
and then
wife.
everybody knew. And I was like, wow. So I'm really just looking like an absolute idiot here. Mind you, I'm dealing with the anxiety because I knew something was going on with my baby and nobody would listen. I had
Mhm,
horrible postpartum depression as well. And I went to the doctor to get put on medication for that. And then my husband was, of course, because he's hiding this big secret. He's like, well, you're crazy. I'm going to take the kids away from you. So I quit taking the medication, and then that's when I found that out, and I was just so done. I was like, "You know what? Fine. I'm gonna get high with you." And he was like, "No, you're not. I'm not gonna do this with you." And I told him either he got high with me or I was gonna go find somebody to get high with. And I don't understand why in the world that was my rationality, but there was no rationality. There was no emotional rationalization or anything, no coherence going on there, because I was so broken mentally, physically, emotionally, all of the things that was like, fine, if he's going to do this, then we're going to go down together.
mm,
And we decided before it even happened, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do this one time and we'll just do it on weekends. And that never happened. I did it one time and never stopped. So he felt terrible about it too. I mean, he knew it was going to happen, but he never stopped either. So we started smoking meth. And I thought the first time I ever did it, I was like, oh my gosh, where has this been my whole life? I can
mhm,
calm down. The 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 ugliness inside of me didn't feel so loud anymore. And I didn't hate myself quite as much. I wasn't so depressed just in the very beginning though. Um, but it was everything felt okay when we first started using and smoking meth or whatever, but things quickly went downhill, of course, and we ended up finding out that my son had like sensory processing problems, and he was aspirating. He had dysphagia with aspiration. So I thought he was having seizures and he was really just aspirating. And so we had some therapists come out, and he had thickened liquids in his bottles and stuff. And he started to like really get better, and he starts hitting all of his milestones. The whole time, his parents are going and getting high every chance that they got. Well, that gets really expensive really, really fast. And so my husband did what he did. He just was like, well, fine, if I'm going to support our habit. So he starts selling it. He starts getting enough that he can sell to his peeps, his people that he knew that used as well.
Mhm.
And he's also still selling weed. So then it goes to, now we're having strangers or random people come to our house at all hours of the night, and we live out in the country. So it's not a normal occurrence to have a lot of traffic coming in and out of this place. It's pretty obvious. And then my husband too, Lord love that. I love that man, but oh my goodness, he was a terrible meth head, because he would be out on the tractor at like 3 o'clock in the morning in the pasture doing donuts, or doing donuts in his truck in the pasture. Like, you can't do that. People know what's going on.
Mhm.
So this, I mean, we lost so much time just getting high, messing around with meth. Years and years and years. My son was 4 years old whenever everything came crashing down, and we'd had CPS contact. They actually showed up at my house, and I actually I was in the shop, because we got high in the shop. We never got high in the house because we thought we were being good parents. Newsflash, you're not a good parent if you're using drugs. Drugs will always come above your family and your children. It's just not a good thing. So, but in our minds, in our warped minds, we thought that we were doing the right thing by our kids. So
Mhm.
I was out in the shop, and one of my husband's friends was over there, and we were fixing to get high, and this random black car pulls up, and I'm like, who is this? Because our driveway is a quarter mile long. Like, you don't come down there unless you're coming down there on purpose. And he told me who he was. He said he was with CPS. And I was like, okay. So come in the house. And, honestly, it couldn't have been worse timing, because we had just decided, we as in me and my 7 and 4 year old had decided that we were going to have a garage sale at my grandparents' house that's in the town that we live outside of. So we had pulled every single toy that my kids had in their rooms, which was a lot, out. This house looked like it had been trashed.
Mhm.
And then this guy walks in my house, and I refused a drug test. He wanted to do a mouth swab, and I refused it. Like, no. He said, well, you're going to have to come up to the office and do a urine. And I said, that's fine, because I knew if I could buy me a couple days, I could pass it. And so I didn't stop getting high that evening. I got high again that evening. And then the very next day, I went to get groceries. And I'm in Walmart by myself. I used to love to go grocery shopping. I would like get high before I went. I don't know. It was weird. But something just audibly told me, April, you're gonna lose your kids.
Mhm.
And so right then and there, like, panic ensued. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I checked out, and I got home, and I went out to the shop where my husband was, and I said, listen, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to take the kids, and we're going to go down to Houston. I have an aunt that lives in Houston. I have a cousin that works at one of the chemical plants in Pasadena. Like, she had already told me that she could get me on out there, and it would be like one of the entry level jobs, but she could help me. I have to clean my act up. I can't lose my kids. And so I didn't get high that night. And I went and I started gathering up stuff in the house. I went to bed with the kids that night, and I woke up early the next morning to send my husband off to work, because he was a functional addict. He was a plumber. He still went to work every morning. And he came in, he told me bye, he told me he loved me, he told me the best thing in the world that I could do for our kids would be to leave him, that he was never going to change.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, that's pretty painful. Thanks a lot, sir. But I understood. And I understood at that point that this was bigger than my love for him. I had to be a mom for once, and
It's such a demonic drug.
it
How do
is.
you, Tracy, being an addict, how do you just, how do you feel or think what it was that made you be able to instantly, I mean, you hear this inaudible voice, you're going to lose your kids. How do you think you were able just to quit? Like, how do you just quit?
So I don't think that that was the moment that I just quit. That was my moment of, I'm going to get away for a few days. That was my plan. I was going to Houston so I could clean up for about 3 to 4 days. That's as long as it takes to pass a urine test from meth.
Mm.
I just needed 3 to 4 days. That's really was my plan. I never had planned to completely quit.
Mm.
But that next morning, after my husband left, and I was getting my trunk to my car was open. I was packing it. My kids were still asleep in the living room, and I came in my bathroom, which is on the far end of the house, and I heard a sound. But I'd shut our gate, or my husband had shut our gate that's like halfway down our driveway, so I didn't think anything of it. And about 5 minutes later, I heard the most god awful loud sound ever. And it sounded like it was coming from inside my house. And I took off. And it was a flashbang. Right as I rounded the corner, another flashbang came through at the same time that they busted through our sliding glass door, and they also busted through our laundry room door, shattered glass everywhere. And all I could do, my son was on a couch that was like against one of the walls, but my daughter, she had been laying on a pallet on the floor. And
Mhm.
so all I could do was I dove over her because I was terrified. I've never been that scared before in my life. And about 45, give or take, SWAT members came through my house, guns drawn, telling me to get on the ground. And I was pure adrenaline. I was terrified. And all I kept saying was, please don't hurt my babies. Please don't hurt my babies. Please don't hurt my babies. And they pulled me off of my daughter and they put me on the ground. And I don't think I was actually rationally thinking, because I just pounded right back over my daughter. And I was just trying to protect her. Like,
Mhm.
please don't hurt her. I was so scared. And they literally picked me up and body slammed me. And then they put the back of a rifle to the back of my head and told me, don't move. And I'm like, I'm not moving. Oh my goodness, what is going on? They got my kids. They made me, my son was just in like a pull up or something, and they made me put clothes on him, made me put shoes on them, and took me outside and handcuffed me. And they put my kids on like a porch swing that we kind of had on a tree that was kind of in front of our shop door,
Mhm.
as they started pulling out all of the drugs, all of the paraphernalia. And I don't really remember a whole bunch,
Mm.
other than I know I sat there and one thing that they did come out is I had like a little like Tupperware container that had Epsom salt in it, because I would put the Epsom salt in the container and then put like essential oils and make it smell good.
Mhm.
And they were like, "What is this?" And I was like, "It's Epsom salt, smell it." But I mean, that's neither here nor there. But I don't really
Mhm.
remember much else other than that. Then they came up to me with like a 2 liter bottle of like, it looked like disgusting water in like a Dr. Pepper 2 liter bottle. And they were like, what is this? And it had come from the shop. And I'm like, I don't know. There was quite literally floaties in it. Like, I'm pretty sure there was a dead fly floating in it. I had no idea what it was. Come to find out, my husband had been saving the bong water from when we were smoking meth. It's disgusting. And I
Mm.
was like, why would you do that? Because these guys think that I'm being, ugh. But
Yeah.
so I know that they told me that I was under arrest for manufacturing delivery of a controlled substance. It was a whole situation. I asked them, they picked me up, and they're like, all right, we're fixing to take you up to Hunt County Jail. And I asked if I could tell my kids bye, because they were bawling and hyperventilating on this swing. And they're watching this whole thing go down. And they said, no, I couldn't tell my kids bye. So all I could do was holler across the yard, it's going to be okay. I love you. It's going to be okay. They're not going to hurt you. I love you.
I
And
can
then they just started,
only imagine what you were feeling during that.
oh,
I
I
mean, through
hated
all of
myself.
that.
I
Oh.
hated myself. I was like, how could I do this? I was a stay-at-home mom. I had one job, and God gave me these kids. I had one job, and I failed miserably because I failed to protect those kids. I hated myself.
Mm.
I just knew, something inside of me just knew that those kids were going to be the most traumatized out of anything. I just had this feeling that nobody in my family was going to be able to get them. I knew my husband's family couldn't, because they're all felons. And I'm just like, how could I do this to my babies? And so CPS showed up and they took my children into their care. When I got to Hunt County Jail, they made me wait before I could get processed in. I had to sit in the like little, I don't even know what it is. It's like the little underground area they pull into, but that they take people out, because they got my husband down the road.
I
They
was
had
going to
one
ask where
cop.
your husband was during all this.
He was the one that they were worried about getting violent, and they got him down the road with one cop. This guy was like super calm, let my husband drink a bottle of water. He was smoking a cigarette, and he let the guy that my husband had a coworker with him, he let him take his truck. Like, I'm sorry, he let him call the boss. They impounded the truck. But this guy, the cop was so calm. The kids and I, who had never been in trouble in our lives, got like 45 deep with guns drawn. It was just the most backwards thing ever. But
To pick up where you left off, you said that your husband, the police officer that pulled your husband over, was let him have some water. That his friend was able to, or his car was impounded.
yeah, his
His
truck was
friend was
impounded, but
okay.
he was able to like call a ride. And I mean, it was it was like a little just intimate detail for my husband, the one that they were all worried about getting crazy. And then for me and the kids, it was wild.
Wow.
But I was like two holding cells down from my husband. And so I was an absolute basket case. I bet you money the people that work at Hunt County Jail to this day, if they were to like see me, they probably still shudder. I was bawling
Mm,
loudly. I did not care. I was wailing. Like, I hated myself. I hated everything that was happening that day. How could I do this? I wanted to honestly just shrivel up and die. But then I see my husband. He comes out of his little holding cell and he's walking with the most calm demeanor. And I was like, are you kidding me? I had lost my mind when I seen that too, because how are you so calm? He gets a phone call. Like, from like the sheriff's station was directly across from me. I'm pretty sure they probably put me in the cell that's directly across from where the little station is so they could watch me because I was losing my ever loving mind. But he gets a phone call. He's on, like, who gets a phone call at the sheriff's actual station and gets to take it while you're incarcerated? My husband, apparently, because his boss at the time knew somebody and he called to tell him, hey, I'm getting your truck out of impound. It's going to be all right, man. But all I could think, because my husband and I, mind you, we've been on meth for years, probably a solid 4 years together now at this point, and it
mhm,
was terrible. Like, our relationship, we fought like this, fought each other. We said horrible things to each other. I mean, we were on the cusp of an actual divorce.
mm,
So, all I could think was, great. His family's going to get him out, and he knows it. And I'm going to be in here stuck because my family don't have any money. My
mhm,
goodness, what little bit of money my parents did have, they had just spent because they went on a vacation. So I knew that they were super broke. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And I was just a basket case. They pulled me out of the holding cell, brought me to the little visitation room, and I had to meet with a CPS lady. And it absolutely destroyed me because she looked at me and she said, how do you calm Cash down? Cash is my son's name. And he was 4. And I was like, what do you mean, how do you calm him down? She said, he won't stop screaming, like he's bawling. What do we do? And I was like, I'm what calms him down. He's never been away from me. How could you ask someone that?
mm,
And then I asked him, I said, well, because I thought maybe my brother Daniel is like super great guy. Him and my sister-in-law Casey, they don't do drugs. They're super Christian, like awesome people. Can my brother get custody of my kids for now or something so they can go with some kind of family? And they said, no, your kids aren't going to any of your family. Your family knew exactly what you were doing this whole time. Nobody, your kids are going into foster care. And then they made me sign a paper it's called the Acknowledgement of Removal of Children. And I signed that, and I I don't even know. My legs just came out from underneath me and I was screaming, crying, like I was sobbing. I couldn't breathe. And I will never forget, I don't even know her name and I wish I did. There was this really sweet jailer she'd come in there with me, and then there was another younger guy that this poor guy was probably traumatized. But this woman, they both picked me up from, because I fell on the floor.
my God.
And they picked me up, and this lady told me, she said, baby, you're going to have to be the reason that these kids have a reason to come back home. You have to be the change. You can change. You can get those kids back, but you have to put in the work. You have to stop this. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Suck it up and start working. And I was like, okay. So they put me back in the holding cell, and I just sat in there and just bawled my eyes out. And somehow my niece, I don't even know how, probably because she's been in jail a bunch, so she knows how it works. And I'm not saying that to knock her. Like, it is what it is. I didn't know,
Right.
but they were like, hey, you can check your phone account. And I was like, I have a phone account? I've been in here for like 14 hours. And so I check it, and I had a message waiting from my sweet niece, Amberly. And she just said, April, we know what's going on. We're going to get you out. We love you. And I was like, Oh my goodness. Like, this is my husband's niece. I thought for sure that his entire family was going to be like, to heck with this crazy broad. She's
Mm.
done nothing but cause problems for my husband the whole time, which isn't actually true. It's the opposite, but whatever. That was a joke. But so I felt a little bit better about that. And then about 17 hours into the whole jail situation, um, my husband, I see him walk out. And mind you, he has to walk straight across in front of me where I'm at. He's still as calm as can be. And he looked at me and he just mouthed, "I'm sorry." The next thing I know, this fool is leaving. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they are going to leave me in here. I am not built for jail. I can't do this. There's a toilet attached to the back of or the sink is attached to the back of the toilet. I can't do this.
Mm.
Like, I'm not made for this. Okay. But I just remember I fell on my face in that holding cell. There was nobody around, and I was as loud as possible. And I said, God, I don't care what you do to me. You could take the breath out of me right now. Please take care of my babies, because I cannot explain it, but I could feel their
Mm.
fear and their pain inside of me. And I truly do believe to this day that God let me feel that because I needed that.
Mm.
I am
Mhm.
so hard headed. I needed to feel every ounce of all that awful that I made my babies feel, so it could just stay with me for the rest of my life to remind me of what I will never go back to. And I believe that that's the moment that every urge, anything I've ever had for meth was taken right away from me.
I believe
And
that too. I believe that. I believe so much, April, that the Lord does that to, or for all of us, many of us, that when we get to the point of surrender and you have absolutely nothing else, nothing,
yep,
and you, even especially, well, I don't want to say especially as a mom, but as a mom, I know because I'm not a dad, but as a mom who has children, I can't even, I can't even imagine. We feel their feelings, and I do believe that you honestly did feel those feelings, because a little bit of scientific study is that when a mother is pregnant with their children, when they give birth, still a part of their children's nerve cells and the mother's nerve cells are transferred into each other's bodies. So I do believe, and I believe that God did make you feel that to keep you from ever, ever, ever doing that again.
100%.
Mhm.
100%.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So you were like face down, told the
Yes.
Lord.
On that disgusting floor, I did not care. All I could think about was how much I failed my kids, hated
Mm.
myself, promised God I would do anything for him if he would just take care of my babies. Um, little fun quick tidbit about that is, like, 20 minutes later they call me out of the holding cell and I'm like, yes, I'm finally gonna get out of here. No, they took me to booking and I had to go to general population, and I thought I was gonna die. I was like, I'm not made for jail. I cannot do this. The moment I walked into that pod, there was a whole bunch of women, which mind you traumatized me too, because I walked in and the showers were like facing where you walk in, and there was one lady that was showering just full frontal, and I was like, but these women circled around me. They had seen my picture on the front page of the paper. And so I guess they, coming from similar backgrounds. And these women prayed for me the moment that I stepped into that cell. And I finally had a bed. So I took about a 10-minute long nap. And then they called my name. They said, McMenemy, pack it up. And I'm like, thank God. I walked out of there, and my father-in-law is the one that was waiting for me. And this is my father-in-law. Were never like, we never really got on like super well. Like, I loved him because he loved my husband, and he loved me because my husband loved me. But we had been butted heads a lot. And then my father-in-law loved me because I always took good care of his grandkids, or so he thought. Um,
Mm.
and, he had one job, April. But that man grabbed me and gave me, probably to this day, the best hug that I've ever had in my life. And he just let me cry. And he told me, it's going to be okay. I love you. We're going to get those babies back. And that started a journey. I got to go to his house, and my husband was there, and he grabbed me and he just apologized. He was like, I'm so sorry. He felt so responsible for everything because he hated himself for letting me smoke meth with him for the first time.
Mm.
And it started this whole process. And then I find out that my lovely husband, that night before we got arrested because I went to him that night before and said, I'm going to leave with the kids. We're going to Houston. And he said, it's the best thing you can do. He didn't believe in God, but he said that night, he sat out in that shop by himself and he said, God, if you are real, you have to help me because I can't quit this on my own and I don't want to lose my family.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, well, that prayer was answered, sir, in a very dramatic way. But yeah. So we got to visit with our kids after that for the very first time in a tiny little room with a two-way mirror for 1 hour after all that had been said and done. And the very first time we seen them, they grabbed us, they hugged us, we were all crying. And they said, yeah, that when we first got to their house, Mr. David and Miss Esther prayed for us. And I was like, who is David and Esther? And they said, they're our foster parents. I knew. I had cried out to God to take care of my babies, and
Mm.
and God put those babies in two amazing Christian folks' households named David and Esther.
Huh.
And I was like, okay, God, okay, I'm listening. I'm gonna shut up and follow your path.
Oh my gosh, that
So I ended up I checked into a rehab myself, and it's probably one of the best things I could do, which is another God story because you get there, if there's beds, you could get in, whatever, it goes by need. I was the very last one to get checked into there. And I was coming up with I had my husband waiting in the parking lot. I'm like, I don't want to be here for 28 days. This sounds terrible. I don't know these women. I'm in the middle of downtown. Like, I'm off La Prada in Dallas. This is sketchy.
Mm.
And they told me that you can only have 7 outfits and all this kind of, I'm not a light packer. So I packed a bunch of stuff. I'm like, they make me throw my clothes away, I'm leaving. And I remember praying, all right, God, if you really want me to be here, just give me a sign. Otherwise, I'm leaving. They called my name 5 seconds later and they said, well, we're feeling generous. You can bring all your clothes in. And I was like, okay. So then 2 days later, these two girls came in from Dallas County Jail and needed clothes. So I gave them half the clothes that I'd brought in.
Awesome. I'm so glad you guys are here. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. So,
It's okay.
go ahead.
So I'm just gonna kind of shorten all these terrible parts because it was awful having to see your kids. I couldn't even leave the office or the little room to bring my daughter to the bathroom. Worker had to. But they sued us. The state of Texas sued us to terminate our rights as parents, and we absolutely refused. By a week into it, we knew we had to search for Jesus. We had to look for Jesus. We had to go to church. There's something happening here. And so we refused to accept that. And actually, my parents helped me with a retainer for an attorney. We hired an attorney to fight CPS, and we jumped through every flaming hoop that they had for us, which was a lot. Um, we did everything plus some. We went to every NA meeting. Actually, we were supposed to go to, I think it was 4 NA meetings a week. We were going to 3 a day. We
Mm.
started chairing meetings. We jumped into the program. We did everything we possibly could. We changed people, places, and things. And I just know that about 4 months into it, we were like, we're okay. We're ready. We can have our kids back. And they're like, no, you can't. You're not ready. But we're going to give you an extended visit, which meant that we got to get them for 4 hours I think it was on a Saturday. We got to pick them up for 4 hours, but we had to have a monitor with us. So my father-in-law, God rest his soul, became our monitor. We drug him all the crazy places. We would take him all over the place. And a little bit over 6 months into our kids being away from us and us really just hardcore working on ourselves, we got the phone call that, hey, when you go pick your kids up on Saturday, you might want to bring an extra vehicle because they're going to come home to you. And still makes me want to cry to this day because it was the best thing ever because I knew if we could get those babies back, we could fix this.
Mhm.
2 weeks after we got our kids back, the world shut down from COVID, and I got them at home with us for 6 months. So God really replaced that. Yeah, it
Wow.
was
I mean,
amazing.
wow. I
It
mean,
was
I have tears in
amazing.
my eyes thinking, I couldn't imagine intercepting that phone call. You're doing all this work and, asking Jesus to come into your lives and just to help you. And what a testimony to him that this
Absolutely.
is that.
Oh, it wouldn't be possible without God. God is the whole reason. In the meantime of that time that before our kids came home, both my husband and I were saved. We both completely gave our lives to Christ, and were both baptized, and we joined a local church. This is actually another really funny way that God works. This is how I know that God has a great sense of humor. So the sheriff of Hunt County at the time, his name was Randy Meeks. And had just gotten out of rehab. My husband had gotten baptized at this tiny church down the road from our house. And I'm like, I'm not going there. I know too many people. I'm from here. People know me. This is embarrassing. I'm so ashamed.
Mm.
Of course, we went there, and my husband had waited to go to Sunday school until I was home. And I'm like, why didn't you go to Sunday school? And he's like, well, you'll see. Randy Meeks was the Sunday school teacher. This man, I love him. He has become like another dad to me. I'm so close with him. I mean, I'm literally the daughter that he never wanted but got anyway. I go to his house. I've driven his vehicles. We are so close, and it is just such a God thing the way that God put us in his path. He's one of the reasons because I was facing 10 years for my manufacturing delivery charge. And in the state of Texas, it's a 10 to 99 year sentence for the first degree felony that I had for that. And they had me on camera selling. So I just knew like I'm cooked. They're going to give me my kids back and I'm going to have. Nope, God stepped in and I was able to get 2 years of deferred probation. And I know God love Randy. He helped me out with that. I know he did. I actually finished my probation a year early. But in the midst of that, we found out that the federal government had picked up my husband's case because my husband also got arrested for the same charges, manufacturing and delivery of a controlled substance. And the feds picked up his case. And unfortunately, when the feds pick up your case, you're going to serve time. But apparently, the goal the whole time was to make sure that I was able to be home with the kids. And if he had to serve time, he was going to make sure that his family could be together. And so I get off probation just in time for us to find out. We went to a sentencing for my husband, and unfortunately, with the sentencing standards, they sentenced him to 10 years. That's as low as they could go. The judge was flabbergasted at the amount of people that showed up at that sentencing hearing for my husband, and also the amount of letters that were sent in on behalf of my husband from, the sheriff that arrested us, the
Wow.
one of the chief of police's in the town that we are in, the fire chief at another town over. So many different people really stood in the gap, and they really stood on business and said, this is a changed man. But he did have to go turn himself in 2 years ago. September 1st, we were blessed that he had 3 months from sentencing until he had to self report that we got to spend together. And it's okay because we're still so blessed. It's so incredible that I know that my husband is there for a reason. I will tell you that his very first roommate that he ever had, I call it a roommate. He's at a camp. He's not like at a hardcore prison. He doesn't have like the doors in the cells. He's in like a dorm. But the very first cellie that he had was a Satanist, a young man. He was probably 22 years old, Satanist, didn't
Mhm.
have a long sentence. Um, my husband, God love him. He's so good. My husband is so good and such a faithful, just God loving man that it is sickening. Honestly, he went from being a terrible meth head to being like so good it makes you sick. Sometimes I'm just like, just do something bad, honestly. But I think it was really hard for this poor kid that was in the room with my husband to really denounce God. And this guy had 666 tattooed on his knuckles and all kinds of stuff. He was there for 6 months, and whenever he left, he was going to church services regularly, engaging in Bible studies, and had gotten his very own copy of the Bible. So
Oh my goodness.
my husband is there for a purpose, and I
Yeah.
know that there's people there that need him more than we do right now because I'm going to have him for the rest of my life. I wish that my kids had their dad right now. They really could use him, especially my son. My son's about to be 11 and he really misses his dad. My daughter's a little more mature. She knows, Dad, I know where where he is. I know he's going to be home. But it's rough. My husband was the breadwinner of the family as well. So I prayed for a job and I got it at the school to have the same hours as my kids, but unfortunately I'm a paraprofessional and I make little to nothing.
Mhm.
But God, I mean, he stretches my paychecks beyond belief. I have a great church that they step in and they help me out where I can't make ends meet. And I just graduated with my bachelor's and now I'm working on my teaching certificate. So honestly, I feel like God has just set all these things. He's like, okay, well, this is what's happened and this is how we're going to bless this situation. And I'm going to put you in a position that you can get your degree. And I'm going to put you in this position where you can get your teaching certificate and you still get to have the same hours as your kids. So they don't have to miss out on anything and you don't have to miss their events. And I'm going to put your husband in this position where he can minister and just he's still pouring blessings out on us just nonstop. And just such a testament of the grace and the goodness that Jesus gives us whenever we just step into the light, you know? I'm just
Yes.
always in awe of just the light that's been poured out on us so we can pour it back into society, because I have so many people that say, April, how are you still so happy? And it's not me, it's Jesus. Because if it's up to me, I would probably be grumpy and depressed. But I don't have that opportunity because I have so much Jesus inside of me that I have to laugh, I have to have fun, and I have to thank God every second of every day.
That is so amazing. I was getting ready to ask you that very same question, but you answered it for me. So, Diane Chambers is here, and she says, "I'm so proud of you, April."
Thank you,
Uh,
Diane.
Sammy wants to know, does he have to serve the full 10 years?
So I'm hoping not. Unfortunately, with the feds, it's usually about 85%, and then they have the First Step Act, and that gets kind of good time off. But I actually hired someone to write a clemency for my husband. I think it was turned in at the end of July, but the Office of Pardons is so backed up that they haven't been able to get to everyone's yet. So if everybody wants to pray that Curtis gets granted a clemency, because he is doing a lot, he could do a lot more good out here. I can promise you that. But yeah, he's been in there for 2 years already. So I'm hoping maybe by then. I listen, the guy that I hired told me that honestly, my husband is the first guy that he's ever written a clemency for that he didn't have to embellish. He said this guy wrote his own clemency. It's just that's why I'm saying he's so good, it's gross. Like he's such a devout, and he really is. Like I'm just like, goodness gracious, can you just do something wrong already and stop being so jolly? He's in prison, and this guy's like, "We're so blessed, honey. Make sure you praise God." And I'm like, "Can I just have a bad day?" But he's so we're hoping that he's out by the end of the year. If not, maybe in 2 years. I just know that God, he's going to be in there as long as God needs him to be in there, and I trust God in the process of all of that.
Okay, so you say your husband is so good, it makes you feel gross. I'm convicted, actually. God works through people, and your testimony, I'm I'm convicted, and I thank you, Lord, for that, and I thank you for using April to convict me, because yes.
No, because the feds are big bullies. We've already applied for clemency, so basically we're just waiting for the Office of Pardons to get through his, open it up, read it, and then they stamp their approval or denial on it. Which I'm 100. God is the one that led me to the word clemency to even get this going. So I'm 100% convinced that if they see it, they're going to say, absolutely, send this guy, get this guy home.
Mm.
But and then if he does, then hey, get my husband on the podcast. You guys, I'm telling y'all are going to be like, this guy is so good and happy. I
So are
mean,
you, though, and I wonder, I honestly, I this, just the whole testimony, it is speechless. Yes, Sammy says she's blown away. Me too, because of your selflessness, your love for the Lord. It just shines. It just shines. And even with your, knowing that your husband is in jail, doing time, and knowing and saying that, he's where God wants him to be. He's doing, work for the Lord there. And yes, me too, Sammy. Sammy says, I would love to hear his testimony. Yes, Sammy reminds me of Paul. Yes.
yes, that's who he reminds me of too, because Paul was in prison, and that's what I told him whenever he got convicted, which he didn't want to hear it. Then he was like, it's not the time, honey. But and that's what I've always told him is he reminds me of Paul. It's just it's amazing. But I'm telling y'all think that I'm like super happy, and my husband is so full of the Spirit. It's honestly just amazing. He blows me away, and I am happy, and I know that I trust in God. I have to trust in God because I was at a place, the lowest place in my life, that I didn't have anything else to trust in.
Mm,
I was at the absolute bottom of rock bottom, and all I could do was just trust in God. And every time I trusted God, the very next time that I was trusting Him again, it happened exactly how it was supposed to happen. And blessings just kept coming, even in the midst of the worst sorrow of my life. I
mhm.
was so incredibly blessed. So I think it's God just conditioned me like, hey, you blindly trust me. God tells us we need to come to him like we're little children. And that's
Yes.
exactly, it's blind faith. God tells me to do something, I'm doing it. I don't care what everybody else around me says. I've learned I'm gonna listen to Jesus. So,
Mhm. So let me
amen.
ask you this. So, I mean, because we are human and because there are days, oh, Sammy says she needed to hear your testimony. You have no idea. See, I thank you for saying yes, because a lot of, this channel is growing. I have close to 3,000 subscribers, and now we're on Prospera TV Network, which streams through Roku, which streams to other countries, and we're soon to be on the Apple app, I believe. But it's not a humongous channel, but I think that the stories here, some are stories because some people are still on the cusp and they're not sure if they believe in the Lord or not, and that's okay, because we want, we welcome everybody here. There is no judgment
Absolutely.
here, and as God welcomes all to the table, everybody is welcome. And but I'm grateful for testimonies, the journey that leads to healing and to finding the Lord, and where the Lord enters your life, and where you literally share the story of being, I was face planted on the ground, down in surrender. You have nothing left. You have nothing left.
Mm-mm.
While it may be the worst place to be, it's absolutely the best place to be, because the Lord scoops you up and he takes,
Absolutely.
and the transformation that only he can do starts
Yes.
to take place.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. So Christy Betts has a question, and I love this question because I would like to know this as well. She says, "So is meth really addictive right away?"
Yes. So I never, back in school, they would give all the presentations and they always said, you can get addicted the first time. And I was like, no, you can't.
Yes.
Yes, you can. And
Oh.
did. Living proof of it right here. I did it one time and never stopped. And I don't mean like I just did it like in the evenings. Like I smoked meth all day, every day.
Hmm.
So yes,
Wow.
it is very addictive and it's so addictive. And now that I'm clean and like in the NA rooms and stuff, I found out I didn't even know the ingredients. I didn't realize that I was smoking Drano or
Oh,
whatever else
wow.
it was. It's
Wow.
awful. Like, how am I alive? But yes, it's
Wow.
so bad. It's so horribly addictive.
So on your down days, because we're human, on your down days, what do you do on your down days?
I keep myself so busy that it's hard to have a down day. So I know it's probably people always tell me like, April, you need to not have your whole life revolve around your kids, but people don't understand that I didn't have my kids for a half of a year of my life in the most traumatic way possible. I
Mm,
relish this time, and my kids are very active. Like I said, Emma's about to be 14, Cash is about to be 11, and
mm,
they're very active in sports and extracurriculars. And we're going. And if we do have a down day and I'm like feeling sorry for myself in some kind of way, either
mhm,
we're going to church, we're going to go out to eat, even if the funds are low, guess what? Money's replaceable.
mm,
Memories are not. So we'll go out to eat, even if it's just up to the store at the hot box to get some Crispitos. We're going to go do something.
mhm,
Or God has just placed some really amazing friends in my life that they'll be like, hey, come over here. Right when
mm,
I need to hear that, like right when I need to interact. Because I am very bad about isolating myself when I get kind of down in the dumps. I'll be like, I'm not dealing with anybody. I'm tired.
mhm,
I don't need to do that. And God put these awesome people in my life that they just know right when to call, or my family, my mom, just out of the blue sometimes when I'm trying to feel sorry for myself will be like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm trying to feel bad for myself.
mm. April. Sammy says, I don't want to get too graphic, but meth gives you more dopamine than other things that you can experience naturally.
Yes.
Pretty
Yes,
and
I know
Pooch
exactly what
says,
he's talking about.
37 years clean here,
Amen.
right? Um, okay, so your children are busy. You are kept busy with your kiddos, and I really, really appreciate the fact that you say that um, you lost your kids for 6 months, and now, my goodness, you relish in it. And it's similar, I feel, maybe not, but to people who maybe had a near death experience, or
Hmm.
maybe a diagnosis that um, the Lord that disappeared all of a sudden. And I'm sure that those people live life differently, because they're like,
Yes.
wow, I almost lost my life, or man, I I had this disease and now I'm healed. And I'm sure that there's a completely different look at life, or the way that they
Yes.
live, right? Um, oh, Daniel says he wished that he had those kind of friends. Well, we love you, Danimal. So we're here for you. And you know that we are. Um,
Absolutely.
so let me ask you this. So you and the kiddos go to church, you're active in
Yes.
church. You sing in church
Yes, I'm on the worship team. I'm as mediocre as you can get, but I love it.
on the worship team. That is awesome. And what are your hopes for the future? What are your hopes?
So what I would really like to do is I want to write a book. I've
Mm,
always enjoyed writing, and I'm sure as everybody can tell, I'm pretty animated. And I would really like to write a book and leave some kind of, I don't care about the monetary legacy, but leave a legacy
mm,
behind of the goodness of God. So in case in the future my kids ever need to be reminded about how good God has been to them their whole life, or even myself, I can always look back on it. And God told me, I mean, right after I got saved, the very next morning, I woke up starving for the word of the Lord, and I was reading the Bible, and I just felt it all over me. Hey, you need to write this. And
mm,
so I just know that that's something that God has put in my path for me to do. I haven't been able to sit down long enough to really get my thoughts on paper yet. But I want to write a book. I want to get my teaching certificate. I'm working on that now. I want to teach. I want to get my master's degree, and then I would like to teach at a collegiate level.
mm,
And I really want to do some kind of outreach in the community. My my dream for this is, I don't know if everybody knows what like CASA is for kids, like they're like the advocates
mhm,
for the kids. It's, I feel like that the adults that are going through addiction or CPS, like they need some kind of not only advocacy but accountability, like that's
mm.
a friend of the court that can have resources available for these people. Hey, if you want to go to rehab tonight, I can get you there. That has all the meeting times for any of the recovery meetings lined up, that has accountability partners, that we can
Mm.
show up and drug test them right on the spot and be honest, but just really not only advocate for these people, because a lot of times CPS misses the mark. There's people that
Right.
deserve to have their kids back and they can't get them back, and there's people that don't deserve to have their kids at all and they get their kids back. And I really wish that I could get involved in some kind of like coalition, really, with other people, because there's so many of us that have come out on the other side. And
Yes.
it'll be like, a God-centered but advocacy slash accountability
Mm,
partnership with the courts and with CPS and with people that are currently struggling, to show them there's a way out. This
mm.
is the way out. If you want to work this program, like not just an NA program or a Celebrate Recovery, I mean, I'm talking, you got to get into the word of the Lord. You've got to jump through these flaming hoops because you have to prove yourself all over again. But really, just do good work out there. Just push for recovery and get this awful stuff off the streets and show people that it's possible. Do it for your
Absolutely.
kids. People always say, do it for yourself. Don't just do it for yourself, do it for your kids. Your kids deserve it.
Absolutely. I mean, they watch, they listen, they learn, they see, and I really like the part that you said, to for these people to get into the word as a part of their recovery, because without it,
Absolutely.
it's I don't want to say that it can't be done, but boy, I think seeking the Lord is more than just recovery. It's
And
lifelong. It's
so many
needed.
people, they are so scared and ashamed to come to the Lord. Jesus literally tells us in the book of Mark that he didn't come to call the healthy, he came to call the sick. I mean,
Absolutely.
we have to understand that Jesus, he uses us that are broken and sick and just beat down, coming out of the absolute pits of hell. He
Mhm.
uses us and turns us into the soldiers that fight
That's
for
exactly
the
right.
armies in heaven. And we can do so much good if we just turn around. We have to shine the light of Jesus so brightly inside of us that everybody around us is like, what the heck is wrong with this person? Why are they so happy? Why are they still fighting for all this good stuff when so much bad? I don't care how much bad happens around me. There's too
Mhm.
much good in this world to let it slip on through. And I want to help other people find that good. And that good is Jesus Christ.
Amen. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. So the final question that I ask everybody before we hop off, um, is with everything. everything that you've been through, April, from beginning to through the feds, every SWAT team, everybody coming in, to going to jail and being faced with possibly doing 10 years of prison, from your childhood to adulthood to where you are today. When you think of everything, all of that encompasses you. Who are you today? Who's April today? Who are you today?
I am a bright, shining daughter of the King. I am a proud mother, first and foremost. I am a loving wife. I am a crazy person that chooses to work in a middle school, loves my job, and I'm just uniquely, chaotically myself, and I am myself in Jesus Christ.
Amen. I love that. That is beautiful. Well, I appreciate you so much coming on and
Thank you for having me.
sharing. I mean, you are a light. You are, because
Thank
and
you.
I'm sure people will say, "What is wrong with you? You're such a light." But thank God for that, because you get to share why you are, and you shared it with
Absolutely.
us. And I think you're a beautiful woman, and
Thank you.
a beautiful mother, and a beautiful wife. And oh, I was going to ask you this too. So do you still get to see your husband? I know a couple whose husband, he was in prison almost, he was in prison 28 years, but his wife
Oof.
um, stood beside him, remained beside him. He got out, and guess what? He is actually now a deacon at his church. He owns businesses because he turned his life around after he was incarcerated for so many years. 28 years, I believe, is what it was. But she stood by him. They have children, and his life is turned around. So, how, I mean, I know that you said, you're a single mom out here, but do you plan on, this might be a really personal question, but do you plan on waiting for your husband to get out of prison?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Listen, I've been through all kinds of stuff with that crazy man. I am not leaving him. He cannot beat me away. We've been together for, okay, let's see. I have to think about it because we were together a lot. I think we've been together for 16 years, married for 11, no. Cash is about to be 11. Married for almost 12. This New Year's Eve, married for almost 12. So, no, he can't get rid of me. I will hold it down for him, wait for him. We get to see him when we can, because he's 4 hours away. He's up in Oklahoma. So,
Okay.
when we can afford it, we get up there. We just went and seen him on Labor Day. We went and seen him. We get to visit with him. We can stay there all day long if we want to. So, I mean, the kids are like, this mom, this setting sucks. Honestly, it's pretty clinical in there,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
oh well, you're gonna go see your dad, we bring
Yeah.
like Uno and we play Uno a lot. But yeah, absolutely, I won't ever leave that man, and if he tries to leave me, y'all probably see me on the first 48, because I'm not
So
holding it down for somebody that's gonna leave me. I'm gonna tell you that. No, he wouldn't. I don't think I could do any wrong at this point, because he's like, oh my gosh, how good are you to stay by me after all of this? And I'm like, well, love makes you do crazy stuff.
it does. I love it. Sammy says her husband and she have been together 16 years, and she wished it would have been longer, but hey, you're still together. You're still going strong. Yes, I know, Christy. She
If
was
I would
very
have met my
strong.
husband before I met him, I would have hated him. So we're good at where we're at.
That's awesome. Well, I would love to meet him. I would love to, gosh, even go and visit him and record a podcast. I don't know if that's allowed, but interview
We can
him.
ask.
Yeah, find out. And if so, I'd love to travel on down and visit him. And if not, I'll wait till he is out and have him on as a guest and share his journey and his testimony. It would be incredible. So
Okay.
thank you again so much, April, for coming on. Hey, you guys go find April on TikTok. That's where I found her. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your testimony and bringing a light to everyone else.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here. Insight Bite, super happy to see you. I'm on most every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. I will sign you up for that live. I will let you guys know when he comes on. And thank you for being here, for supporting April, for hearing her incredible journey and her testimony, and for supporting my podcast, No Judgment Here with Tish Ross podcast. Until next time, you guys have a good night. See you soon. Bye.
This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time.
We hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez.